Ready? All right. Well, first, my name's Larry McKenna, obviously, and I'm the founder of the Jericho House. It's one of the programs we founded. My story kind of goes back to Savannah, Georgia, where I grew up, and I was a wannabe rock star for many years, and couldn't get out of the garage, unfortunately. It was hard to find my way out of the garage with other musicians. But we would have been good, okay? It would have been fantastic. And but being a musician most of my life, and I grew up on the beach surfing and bumming and just a bum, pretty much, and a drug addict.
I knew where I saw you.
Yeah, that's right. See, everybody, I get that all the time. Yeah. No, I'm not going to play a song. Okay. But yeah, one of the things that reminds me of the full Gospels. My story is when I first got married back in 1978. And my wife and I have been married now 40 years. She's up for parole next time. I'm just kidding. But anyway, that's 40 years. That's a 40-year joke. Y'all are not laughing at us.
Really?
You must be married to the same. So,
I thought you were really on parole.
I'm talking to the wrong crowd here. She might be in prison. But no, she and I met out in Oregon when I back in I was probably about 12 years old, pre-puberty kind of time. Started smoking pot. I drank all the time. I'm Irish. I'm from Savannah. And just sip Daddy's beer since I probably, when he wasn't looking, even as early as 6 years old. And the thing is, when I sipped it, I liked it. I didn't spew it out of my mouth. I didn't, I'm 26 years clean and sober right now, and I still like it. Okay, I did find I do have an allergy, though. I break out in handcuffs when I drink it. So I started the addiction probably early. I came by it honestly. My dad was an alcoholic, and he struggled. He was a good man, but he struggled with alcoholism, and he'd have moments of clarity, and bam, just all the time. I remember as a kid, my mom gathering us up. I'm the last. She had 8 children. I'm the last of those, and they couldn't do any better after they got me out. But so she would take us around. I think I was 6 years old, maybe or so, and send us into the bars to go find my dad. And that was my childhood, and of course, let's go out in the middle of the night, sure, and it was just, I look at how disrupted my life was with that, and no structure, no foundation really to speak of. So some of this I feel like I honestly came by it honestly, that with the addictions and so on. But that's what the evil one meant. There's other purposes too. So I started doing drugs and hanging around all my buddies. If you ever been to Savannah, now it's a little different now, but there was nothing else to do, literally nothing else to do but get drinking and drugging and so on. So that's what we did. And but I think just before I turned 18, I was playing in a band, and a keyboardist there, a friend of mine, Johnny, got irritated at me because I didn't like Christians. I always mocked him and had a smart, sharp tongue. I'm healed now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really healed, and so he got a little irritated, and he got mad at me one day, and I think back then I weighed 121 pounds and had hair down to here, looked like a mop, walking around, and he told me, he said, "McKenna, remember this, Jesus, I'm a sinner. Forgive me my sins, come live in my heart." And I thought, fruitcake, but it was something I saw in him. I mean, he'd come to practice, and he had his 72 Rhodes keyboarded, and he'd throw his Bible up there at times, or he'd expose us to things that in the band that made us maybe spiritually curious. Okay, my mom was a Baptist, and my dad was a Catholic, so that made me a Batholic. I started another denomination. And we don't know what we are, okay? But I knew I didn't like religion, and so I saw the battles early on as a kid, watching my grandmother, who was obviously Irish Catholic, and not do so well with my mom, who was Baptist. And my mom grew up with I think the Primitive Baptists back in Waycross, Georgia. She grew up in Waycross, Georgia. They beat snakes out of the windows with brooms and stuff like that down there, Okefenokee Swamp. So different people, and so I saw that religious conflict early on in life. So I didn't want to have anybody to do with God, and plus it wasn't a whole lot of fun either. So you know, and I was all about having fun. So, but anyway, it's probably just before I turned 18, I was at Tybee Island, rolling around with a friend of mine and named Mike, and the police pulled us over, and he was in his dad's car, and we rolled the windows down, the pot smoke rolled out, and we went to jail. And he had a little bit more drugs in his car than I had counted on, so we were facing some. Well, I was facing some trouble. I don't know why I have an honest face. The police didn't believe me when I said I was innocent. And really, all the deal was is that he didn't tell. I was just mad because he didn't tell me he had the drugs. I probably would have smoked it, you know. And so, but it was those things that kind of, these series of things that kind of kept happening. But I ended up in jail at Tybee Island. And I don't know if you've ever been down there, but it was just the old Fort Scriven jail, just by the light tower, lighthouse. And I remember there was a mirror. It was a piece of metal that was reflective on the wall. And I remember looking in there and looking at this death looking back at me. Yeah, I was just still a teenager, but I looked like I was 90 years old, and felt like that I could smell death. I mean, literally, you know, that I was dying. And I remember those words Johnny said. You know, Jesus, I'm a sinner. Forgive me my sins. Come live in my heart. And I prayed it. I said it. I was, you know, doing drugs, drinking all the time, doing a lot of LSD. I went through 0 withdrawals. Put away the cigarettes, the drugs, everything. Instantly, the Lord healed me of my addiction. I believe that to this day. And you know, I didn't know how to pray, so I remember I was in there for a few days. My dad wanted to make sure I stewed a little bit, you know, and I remember I was in there, so I had some nights go by, so I know I heard you're supposed to pray at night, just right, you know, when Christians pray at night. The other times we worry about, but at night, Lord help me out. So I didn't know how to pray, but I did know, now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul, and that's what I prayed, you know, and I'd said that as a kid, but there was just this crazy peace that would have been the best, most eloquent prayer to God that could ever be spoken, I felt like. You know, God was just enjoying me praying to Him. I believe that. And so got out of there, and I was supposed to, you know, I heard you were supposed to read the Bible, so I got me a Bible. One of the first Bibles I got, I read it, got into the Gospel of John, and I heard you're supposed to go share it. But I also thought, you know, I probably need a church. And so I went to, because his mom was always right, I went to the biggest Baptist church you could find in Savannah. Back then it was Bull Street Baptist Church. And so I went and sat in there, and I had a guy come up to me and say, sir, you're going to have to leave. This is 74, okay? And I said, well, okay, I must have got here late. I guess the thing's over, you know. These Baptists get up early, you know. And he said, no, it's a shame for a man to have long hair. And he asked me to leave the church. Okay, well, that's just what went on back then. I mean, you know, we don't see that nowadays, but that's, you know, and that's okay. And it probably was. I probably did need a haircut, so it was that too. But the thing is that the rejection, you know. And so I left there, went across the street to a place in Savannah called Forsyth Park, and where some hippies were playing guitars. And I thought, well, you know, musicians, I can go share this gospel with them because you know, I can relate to the music and so on. And I went over there and started sharing the gospel, and I mean, I was just butchering it, man. You know, I think I made up a gospel. There's a fifth gospel out there somewhere, the Gospel of Larry. Yeah, but they started laughing, and I thought, well, you know, this stuff's tough. Well, it ended up being that they were Christians, and they were Jesus people. And so I, just to make this thing shorter, I went from Savannah, Georgia, never being out of there other than just, you know, just hanging around Jacksonville, surfing down a little bit there, and hanging out, to Oregon, like that, and to California, and I ended up living probably in every northwestern state in the country and out west, and met my wife in Oregon in school, Bible school. We were connected with Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. I don't know if you know who Chuck Smith was, and Chuck Smith was one of my spiritual mentors, and at least we sat under his teaching for quite a while, and started a couple of Calvary Chapels since then. But found my wife, got married, and then at 30 had major back surgery. I just had not taken very good care of myself. I was a runner, pounding my back to death, and falling off mountains and things like that. So had major back surgery, and within a 2-month period, my dad died of Hodgkin's disease, cancer, and I lost my health. I went from running 10K every day when I wanted to convalescent bed. We had to move into our house. I couldn't walk. I lost the use of this leg, and started medicating. But I found that the drugs didn't just medicate my back. I was a pastor before then, and doing ministry and working, running a company, a painting company. And I remember, blaming God for killing my dad with cancer. I said, because I remember all the bargaining I was doing when he was sick. Lord, if you just heal my dad, that whole bargaining thing you go through, I'll save the universe and all that. And the universe was not mine to save, so that created an instant problem. But I did start medicating, and it was within a 6-month period I was full-blown back into it. And I always gravitated back to alcohol because it was easy, legal, and so on. But I didn't care what I would do. I just didn't want to feel what I was feeling. And it sent me and my wife into a 7-year plunder down into an ugly addiction, her heaped on the floor crying, and me going to a place in South Florida called Dunklin Memorial Camp in 1992. That day, I'll never forget it. It was a Tuesday, November 3rd, 92. It's the same day Clinton was elected into office. The Braves lost the World Series that day, and I went into rehab. Same day. So it's hard to forget. Of course, I got the better deal, because I got a chance to change. And went to that program. The program's been there now about 57 years, and in 2 years went back and walked out and started my business back up, painting here, doing commercial work here in Atlanta. Came back and how you doing? Came back and then went back to Dunklin to train I was only going to go for a few months to train, and ended up staying there almost 4 years. Came on staff there to help develop the inner healing and the other curriculum that we use now. And in '98, Jensen Franklin had come down to visit with the other team at the pre-chapel, and they wanted to start a program, and we told, well, you have one in your neighborhood called No Longer Bound. And so they decided to support No Longer Bound, which paid my salary for 7 years to come bring the curriculum to No Longer Bound and train the folks there at No Longer Bound for 7 years. So I worked at No Longer Bound for 7 years. And left there and started Waypoint Center, which is another program like that with the same model. Then left there and started the Jericho House. But it didn't start there. Back when I was out west, I was living in South Lake Tahoe, the Lord showed me the Jericho House. And of course I had no clue what I was seeing. I was just saying, oh, that's a good concept there, But he gave me that vision back then, and it was all about but he also showed me that you still don't have the tools to do it though. And I thought the tools would be some education. And now I look back at it, it's the pain of the addiction that I went through, that those things that I would normally shut the door on and shut out in my past, they were the same tools that I apply my trade with now, and that's the pain and the hurt of having your own addiction. What was meant for evil, God has turned for the good. So that's how I ended up here, And the Jericho House is just a whole different ministry. I mean, I've ran them, worked in them, trained the kids that are over there, No Longer Bound right now, are great guys. I say kids, they're great men, and they're doing a fantastic job. So glad that I got that time to sow into there. And No Longer Bound was also 7 years of great training for me, preparing me to do what I do now. And that's kind of where I come from, and that's how the Jericho House developed. The Jericho House developed too, but I left Waypoint. I was hurt. I kind of had started a little baby there, and when I left No Longer Bound, I started the Waypoint Center, but I really had an attitude. And it's not good to build upon an attitude. It's good to build upon a person. And I had truly had this attitude that I could do this, I can do this. And I left there No Longer Bound with my chest barreled out and started Waypoint Center. And for me, what I was doing, I was creating an Ishmael. I wasn't waiting on the Lord. I wasn't praying through. I was just wanting to do it. And I created what I call an Ishmael and not an Isaac. Just like Abraham jumped the gun and worked in the flesh, you know, and so I had to leave. I left Waypoint. Now Waypoint has a total different people there. They're doing great work. It's a blessing, and I thank God that He used me to help start that. So there's no. I hope you don't hear any. There's no. You know, it's wonderful. The Ishmael was what I created. Not. It doesn't make the Waypoint an Ishmael. You know, it's just that I had trusted in the arm of the flesh, and I would pray for it. Well, Jericho House wasn't that way. I spent a lot of time on the back of a horse, crying, you know, weeping alone. We used to raise horses. We used to work horses in the ministry. We got rid of them, thank God. The best, happiest day of our life was, the happiest and saddest day of our life was selling the horses. We cried watching them get loaded up, and when they handed over the cash, we started smiling, you know, because we had just poured so much into those stupid horses, you know. But we were cowboys. That's what you do, right? Duh. Anyway, but I remember being out on the trail and just breaking, you know, and I thought, you know, no, this is something that's going to be crazy, and all I can tell you is that with the Jericho House, it's just been different. We're a different ministry. We're doing we use some of the same curriculum that we developed over the years. The same stuff. It's not very similar to most programs you'd see. But, you know, I had my daughter, this is kind of gave me a little picture of this. My daughter's a nanny to a 5-year-old, you know, and these kids, they draw, if you see them draw, oh, go draw a picture of your family. You know, you tell a kid that. They're going to draw a little house and big people. You ever notice that? These people they draw in their pictures that can never fit in their house, you know. But here's what they're saying. People are more important, you know, than the facilities. The people are what matters, and that's what we've done a pretty good job keeping that the emphasis. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know, ministries come and grow and come and go, you know, but people are still people, and we're in the people business, right? We've watched so many salvations. We got a kid in there right now from Israel. You know, I've had a Croatian in the program. I've had, you know, I don't know how they find us, you know, other than that the Lord brings people. We used to try to turn that spigot on and get people in the program, and you know, and realize that, you know, God holds that spigot. He says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. So that's kind of where